University of Ghana School of Law, and I will be speaking firmly for the motion that there does need to be stricter regimes against political insults in Ghana. So I'll just start from the definition as shared by the Media Foundation for West Africa. Politics of insults or political insults are statements that are made to damage the reputations of individuals, political parties, or cultural groups, and which provoke the targets of such statements to act in offensive or unpleasant manners. And I believe that this definition alone disabuses the preconceived notion of the triviality of the politics of insult. There's absolutely nothing trivial about our leading political actors taking to the media and to their podiums to fling insults against each other. Like, there's absolutely nothing trivial about it. Our political parties have many supporters. Dare I say, millions of supporters, like worldwide. Millions of supporters from like across the country. So as when our political actors speak, people listen. And obviously, in a haste to outdo their political opponents, they say stuff on the podium that they do not really think into. They say things without thinking of what they are saying, how they are saying it, or how what they are saying is affecting their listeners. And the dissemination of these insults and its peddling in the media could incite violence and anger in their supporters, which could lead to conflicts that would have social, political, and economic ramifications on the development of the country. Then I'll go on to say that our political actors argue freedom of speech when they make these pronouncements against their other political actors. And yes, we as the citizenry of Ghana have been given the opportunity to basically be the masters of our own tongues, privy to the 1992 Constitution and to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, given to us by the United Nations General Assembly, of which Ghana forms a signatory. However, these rights, as are enshrined in the 1992 Constitution, are not absolute. Our rights end where another person's right begins. Our rights in Article 21A of the Constitution, which allows us to be able to say whatever we want, ends where another person's rights to, let's say, dignity begins in Article 15.1. And this is solidified in Article 12.2 of the Constitution, that declares that irrespective of one's age, gender, or political opinion, they have the privilege to enjoy their rights and freedoms. But this is subject to the respect for the rights and freedoms of others. And my last point as to why there needs to be stricter regimes against political insults in Ghana is the fact that whether or not, like, no matter the outcome of the presidential elections, these are the same people who are going to be representing Ghana on the international field. So one might say that the international image of Ghana is not really in disrepute, or is not really a topic for the now. But I believe that that is like wildly inaccurate, because like states like the United States, let's take Donald Trump for instance. There is no way to detach the insults that have been attached to him from the image of the country. When you mention the name of Donald Trump, it is attached to names such as incompetent or the captain of chaos, as well as being attached to the name of the presidency of the United States of America. So I believe that why should we advocate for such malice in our political discourse? Why should we allow our political actors, to fling these insults against each other, tainting the name of Ghana and tainting our image? Thank you.
All right, so Agaya, you heard her obviously indicating to all of us that where someone's right ends, another's begins. And we seem to have a situation where a lot of people, because of this right they have in the Constitution, they just go on social media, go anywhere. They sometimes even take on the first gentleman of the land, all in the name of a freedom of expression. She feels that looking at the ripple effect and the consequences it can have for our democracy, there is a need to have a stricter regime to address it. Are you convinced?
Okay, good evening to everyone. To me, I don't think that is necessary. When we look at the very terms of the motion that we're arguing on, it presupposes, and indeed it is the case, that it is a regime already that is in existence in our laws that is capable of addressing issues such as these that she has talked about. And mine look at the legal literature on this reveals that the law of defamation is enough to deal with instances where another has, in exercise of his right to freedom of speech, injured the reputation of another. Now, this law of defamation is something that is deeply etched in our legal tradition. We have it in the common law tradition, which is part of our laws. We have it in Ghanaian customary law. We have it in Article, when we read the entirety of Article 21 in conjunction with the whole of Chapter 12 of the Constitution on the media, we realize that the right of everyone to express himself has some limitations. And in view of that, we can say that the law of defamation is something that is very much critical in our jurisprudence, and everyone is aware of that.
Right.
However, we should pause for a moment to examine whether it is necessary for us to actually provide a stricter regime to deal with issues of political insults. Now, to do that, we would realize, first of all, that issues of political insults are not needed at all in politics. Politics should never be about insults. However, we realize that issues such as what our sister talked about were already envisaged in the past. And since 1960, when the Criminal Code Act 29 was enacted, up until the year 2001, when some portions of it were repealed, we had as part of our laws the criminal libel and seditious laws. Now, these laws were so distasteful and humiliating in their effect that the citizens and notable men of the media, as well as members of the legal profession, including even the bench, subjected all of these to strict criticisms. And the Parliament of Ghana responded to this, and in 2001, Parliament enacted the Criminal Code, Repeal of Criminal Libel and Seditious Laws Amendment Act, Act number 602. In that particular law, Parliament unanimously, emphasis on unanimously, Parliament unanimously repealed the relevant sections of this law which were seen to be infringements on the right to freedom of speech and expression, and as well media freedom. Now, any attempt to try to provide a stricter regime means, when we look at even the fact that there already exists a regime capable of addressing it, and we're talking about a stricter one, it means we are thinking perhaps of criminalizing it, because that is the most plausible option for us. Now, trying to criminalize it means we'll be taking ourselves back to those days that we have successfully labored to consign to the archives of history. And I don't think that should be the best way for us as a country. We should be looking to see what the future holds for us, and not to take ourselves several miles back to those days that were so distasteful that we ourselves advocated against, and Parliament responded positively to that. Again, when we criminalize political insults, it's going to be used as a tool of oppression against political enemies and citizens generally who are very critical of the government of the day. Now, we realize that under Article 88(3) of the 1992 Constitution, the Attorney General is the chief prosecutor of the state. And our practice since 1992 has been that the Attorney General is normally a member of the ruling party. Now, it is not uncommon, it's not unlikely that when this happens, the Attorney General is most likely to use this power to prosecute members of the other party, the opposition party, as well as citizens generally who criticize certain policies of the government. And I don't think we should want to do that. Now, I'm not a seer or something of the sort to be able to see with exact certainty that this is going to result from that. But I have drawn inspiration from our very own experience to make this claim. We would all remember that prior to 1993, Ghana didn't have an offense like causing financial loss to the state. Now, in 1993, Parliament of Ghana thought it wise to create such an offense. So Parliament passed the Criminal Code Amendment Act 1993, Act number 458. In this particular law, Parliament inserted in Section 179, capital A of Act 29, that is the Criminal Code, an offense known as the causing of intentional or willful causing of financial loss to the state. Now, I'm not here seeking to examine the propriety or otherwise of the prosecutions that have taken place in respect of this offense since it was created. But I'm only trying to let us understand that when you look at the cases that have gone before court in respect of this particular offense, you realize that whenever there is a change of government, the political party or the new party that is in power is seeking to prosecute officials of the other government which have allegedly caused financial loss to the state. Now, as I said, we're not seeking to determine whether that is right. But also, we should realize that there are equally people in the ruling party itself who are capable or who have done certain things that should warrant such prosecution. But it is very unlikely that they would want to prosecute members of their parties or their own appointees who are guilty of some of these offenses. And as a result of that, when we looking at the fact that the Attorney General's power to prosecute is something that is a discretionary power that he has to do, when we do that, we are going to create a situation where they will use it as a means to silence their critics and their political opponents. Because for fear that they will be prosecuted, everyone will be silent.
Okay.
Then one last reason why it is not necessary for us to criminalize political insults is that it is something that is against international jurisprudence. When we look at the nature of international law right now, we realize that a number of international human rights treaties, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that our sister talked about, as well as the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and so many other human rights treaties have enshrined in them this particular right to freedom of speech and expression. Not only that, we realize that almost all party states to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE, almost all member states to this particular treaty once had as part of their laws criminal defamation as well as insult laws. However, over the years, we have realized that judicial opinions, including decisions of the European Court of Human Rights, as well as judicial opinions of many states, including the European Court of Human Rights, have declared as unconstitutional or against, have declared all of these laws, most of these laws, as things or laws that are contrary to the very precepts of those human rights treaties themselves.
Okay.
And not only that, some of the parliaments in the various jurisdictions have sought to amend most of these laws. Again, some of the laws, although they exist still in the statute books of some of these countries, they have almost fallen into disuse.
Okay.
So we, as a country who have already gone miles ahead, considering the fact that in the international front, there's already a swing of the pendulum away from restricting people's right to express themselves towards the situation whereby everyone would be given the opportunity to be able to express himself. We who have already made progress in this respect should not want to take ourselves back to those instances which have been criticized by many people, including international law.
I think your point is well made. Now, Paula, so you heard him indicating that if you would want to go on that tangent to have a stricter regime, it would take a toll on probity and accountability. He also talked about, already abuse of incumbency is an issue. And so he said that if we have that regime in place, it means that political parties would want to go after their opponent and not even look at people with similar cases within their own party. He also talked about that being at variance with international conventions. How do you rebut to his submission so far?
Yeah, I personally believe that, yes, the freedom of speech that we have allows us to be able to say whatever we want, whenever we want, wherever we want, but it is being taken for granted in Ghana. Because what was once seen as like a healthy alternative to violence has now become the direct catalyst of violence, inciting the supporters of Party A and Party B, leading them to act in like unpleasant manners when these presidential elections take place. So I believe that the freedom of speech that has been given to us, privy to the 1992 Constitution, is supposed to come or supposed to be accompanied with the responsibility of us applying it with a modicum of, let's say, respect for the dignity of others. Because there's absolutely no reason why we should take to the media to fling insults on the very people who are going to be representing Ghana on the international field.
Okay. In wrapping up, I told you that today we have just 30 minutes for the broadcast. In wrapping up, I know you have taken stance on this particular topic, but I would want to find out from you, and from a very nationalistic point of view, maybe the stricter regime is not the way to go, but how do we check that people are responsible in the utterances they make? For instance, somebody going on social media to insult the president, to insult a former president in 30 seconds. How do we check that?
To me, I think that the best approach is for our politicians to understand that politics is not about insults. So there is a need for our minds to undergo some form of revolution, mental revolution, whereby we would have a change of focus away from using abusive words against our political opponents towards the use of much more decorous words in doing that. Again, that which is even much more crucial is the fact that although it may not have a short-term effect, but in the long run, it will be something of great importance. And that is, we could possibly consider including in our educational curricula the philosophy and strategy of making known one's view about any political issue or anything of the sort without resorting to abusive language.
Okay.
So that will have a long-term effect on our political landscape.
Okay. Paula, you have the last take.
Okay, well, I am vehemently for my stance that there needs to be stricter regimes against political insults in Ghana because, like, as at present, all we have are moral appeals to the moral high ground, of our political opponents. But then this is not enough. We need to take stricter measures against political insults because it's getting too far and it's getting out of hand. Like they take to the media to call each other backing dogs and many more. But so I believe that like the Electoral Commission should be given the power to put, let's say, these political opponents who go against the measures that will be put in place on probation. I know that this may seem like a little like
draconian.
Exactly. But then I believe that these measures should be taken because if withdrawing or putting one candidate on probation is going to help us curb this politics of insults is what should be done.
Okay, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming to the studio. Tonight, my debaters have been Frederick Agaya Adongo and Dion Paula Gbobite. Both law students at the University of Ghana. You're still watching News Tonight live on GH1 TV. Let's do some other stories tonight. As the world marks World Polio Day, we throw the spotlight on the sculptor of the iconic